So speak life, when the sun won't shine and you don't know why. Look into the eyes of the broken hearted, watch them come alive as soon as you speak hope, you speak love, you speak life.
Hi, and welcome to Dealing with Life. This airs every week at this time. If you've been struggling or know somebody who has been struggling, then I pray this touches you in some way. We do our best here to talk about things that affect our lives, things that we struggle with, and try to find victory through. We have guests who have had major struggles and found victory through them. We also have people who have been called to help others. I'm Tom Baker, author of One Dog's Faith, a book about life, trust, and worry through the eyes of a dog. If you're a dog lover, or if you worry, or if you do both, this book I believe you'll like. It's through the eyes of my dog Mango. She has helped me immensely through some major worry issues. We're going to talk about that today. I was challenged recently, people who listen to this show, Dealing with Life, they said, I like the guests you have on there. I like the insight that they have through their struggles or their willingness to help somebody else, but we haven't heard from you. We'd like to hear from you and your attitude on dealing with life. So that's what we're going to do today. And my passion is worry. Worry is something that I have dealt with all my life. And up to about a few years ago, my passion was doing it. And now my passion is helping people, keeping it to a minimum. I don't know if you consider yourself a worrier or not. I believe it's human nature. I believe we all do it. I believe some of us, me included, take it very far, very quickly. What is it? What is worry? I mean, it's looking at a situation and weighing out the possible outcomes, and then as you churn them around in your head, they start to appear worse and worse and worse. And soon as you look at a possible situation, you automatically think this is going to be bad. Well, here's a definition for you. Worry is being afraid of a situation that you don't think you can handle. Simple as that. If someone called us from the future, "Hello, this is the future calling. This thing you're worrying about right now, forget about it. It's going to be fine. You're not even going to be thinking about it here in a couple of days. So let me reassure you, ain't nothing wrong here." I don't know why the future has an accent from Queens. So if you took that call and knew that this thing you're worried about is going to be fine, then you would stop worrying. Simple as that. That's what we do, though. We don't have the option to look ahead and know whether it's going to be fine or not. That's the center of our worrying. We can't see beyond this second. So when we have something that's facing us, whether it's sickness, whether it's job-related, money-related, health-related, whatever, we worry about it. We can't do a thing about it, but we worry. And it's such a time waster. I've wasted so much time in my life worrying about something instead of just moving on. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. Why do we do it? Why do we worry? We worry because we don't have a belief in our own strength. We worry because we have a lack of understanding and a lack of believing just how powerful our God is. I think that's the heart of it, actually. We're worried about change. Our life is full of change. The only time we're guaranteed not to have change is when we're standing in front of a vending machine, right? It always changes, and that's the one thing we totally don't like. We want, even if things are not great, we don't want it to change because that change could be worse than this. If we have the outlook of the change could be better than this, then we won't worry so much. So that's what I want to talk to you about today. Why do we worry? And how do we, and let me tell you right off the bat that we will never beat worrying. The worry factor starts at the beginning of the day and goes on. And then it clears and the next day starts and we have other things to worry about. I won't tell you that you can stop worrying. Anybody who looks at me and says, I don't worry, I think of two things. Either you're heavily medicated or you just don't care. Recently, my third daughter just turned 16. Another definition of worry is watching that car round the corner for the first time when she's driving alone. Okay, definition of worry is having teenage daughters, but just having things out of your hands and just not knowing what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, and you know the dangers out there. It's frightening, and it's controllable, but it is frightening. I've heard it said before, worry is like a rocking chair. Gives you something to do, but you go absolutely nowhere. I believe worry is one of Satan's greatest tool to stifle our faith. I mean, that's his job. That's what the devil wants, is to take our eyes away from God or take our belief away from God. That's all he wants. Fear and worry are some of his greatest tools. And we are at war with the forces that try to silence God in our lives. Joy is the proof of our victory. Worry allows us to believe that God isn't helping us or working for our good. Worry just takes us out of the blessings of God and takes us straight into the dangers of life. So what is one of the best ways to honor God? To show others who he is. And it's really difficult to show others how great God is when our head's looking straight down, worrying about things. When we look like we have no hope whatsoever. And it's hard not to have hope when things are facing you like a brick wall. It's difficult. A couple of statistics for you here. First of all, what do you think the number one worry is? Some would say health. Some would say money. Some would say your job. I'll tell you what the number one worry in America is. A study was done a couple of years ago. The number one worry is appearance. How do we appear to others? And I'm not just talking about hairbrushed or makeup. I'm talking about how we look to others, whether we're successful or not, whether we have it together. And that's a difficult thing to pull off sometimes, but we are so worried that others are going to figure us out. Well, if you just lay a little bit of trust in the fact that God knows who you are and he loves you anyway, that can take some of that worry away. Another statistic here. Percentage-wise, how many things that we Americans worry about actually happen? That's something that we don't roll around on our heads very much, is a possibility that it won't happen. We worry that it will. 92% of the things we worry about never happen. Now, things do happen, and I think that's part of the reason we do worry is because we have a past, things that have happened to us, each of us, that we know, oh, golly, if that happens again, or what if it's worse than that? That is something to worry about. But I tell you, worry is something that affects your decision-making. And that's what I want to impress on all of us who are working people, is the more we're stressed, the worse our decisions are. We make decisions out of impulse and fear instead of thinking about it. Consider a fella named Major Harris. He was a quarterback for West Virginia way back in the 80s. He is in the College Football Hall of Fame. But there was a game against Penn State. The clock was running out. He was totally stressed on trying to get this thing won, and the stress got the better of him. He blanked out. He called a play where everybody was going to run left, and he forgot and ran right. He was all alone. Stressful situation. Terrible decision. The stress got the best of him. Now, in this particular case, it didn't turn out to be a disaster because not only did his team all go left, but the defense did too. And so he ran in for a touchdown. I believe that was one of God's blessings out of a potential disaster. Was that something he'd worried about before? I'm sure. Calling a play that he forgot what it actually was, and he took it the wrong way. That would be a nightmare to a quarterback, I'm sure. But stress and worry affects our decision-making in such a terrible way. We just blank out on all the things that are happening around us, and the things that we are stressing so much about take full attention in our head, and everything else is off to the side and a little blurry. I liken worry to fog. Fog can be very frightening. Fog, if you've been in fog where you can't even see your fingers, it's so thick. Very terrible car accidents have happened. Multiple pileups have happened because of fog. It's very stressful. It's very unnerving to be in it. But what's the deal about fog? It disappears. If you drive far enough or walk far enough, it's gone. Or if you're in an airplane and you take off in fog, you go up just a little bit, and it's an absolutely beautiful day. That's what life really is. There's things all around us that scare us and are unnerving and things that we worry about. But really, life around us is pretty awesome. Worry not only affects your decision-making, but it's really unhealthy. Your body reacts to stress and worry like it does physical harm. Now, your body is equipped to deal with that on a short-term basis. But when you are in a stressful situation and remain in stress for a while, your body don't like it. Stress and worry are behind the leading causes of death. If you think seriously about this for a second, we're talking about ulcers, we're talking about heart attacks, we're talking about suicide, we're talking about cancer. I mean, it is the underlying cause of so many health problems. Now, a few years ago, I dealt with a very difficult issue. We all have, and I'm not going to say that my issue is any more difficult than anybody else's, but I ended up over a period of about a year of losing 30 pounds simply due to stress. Unhealthy, I would say. In just a few minutes, we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about struggle, and we're going to talk about ways of lessening our worry. This is a show called Dealing with Life. Really glad you're here. I'm Tom Baker, author of One Dog's Faith, and we'll deal with more in just a minute. You're listening to Dealing with Life. Really glad to have you along for the ride. I'm Tom Baker, author of One Dog's Faith, a book about life, about trust, about worry through the eyes of a dog. And that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about worry. About 3-4 years ago, I went through a very difficult issue. I'm in the video business. I own a video production company. And for the, 6-7 years, business was really, really good. I've been in business for 15 years now. And it was nearly doubling every year for 6-7 years. And then all of a sudden, At one point, it was the perfect storm. Everything stopped. Business just stopped. I had 6 employees. I had tons of very expensive video equipment that I was making payments on, and I was paying all kinds of freelance people, such as voiceover artists, such as graphic artists, such as writers and camera people and whatnot, paying them a lot of money to do really good work. And the reputation that this company has and had then was excellent and top quality work. And you can only have that by the best people and the best equipment. And then when things stopped, obviously the money did too. And I was faced with a situation rather quickly of having to lay off the employees. And these employees were friends, our friends. And it just nearly killed me to do it. And for a while, I put it off. I did not want to lay anybody off because I knew that they were relying on me. They're family people. They had children, and they were all relying on this job to keep going. And it was just tearing me apart, the decision of whether or not to lay them off. And so I didn't. And so I decided, a terrible decision, but it was one that I made, of paying them rather than the IRS. And that's a tough situation to be in, because after a little while, the IRS wanted their end of the deal. And so there was piling on top of me rather quickly the idea of the IRS being able to take our house, being able to take the business, being able to take everything, because I'm the owner, and that's who they go after. And so it didn't take long for the stress of not being able to pay really anybody, especially the IRS, and especially being able to keep the business, even the doors open, to try to start paying all of this off. It took literally no time for me to be in a state to where I wasn't able to sleep. I wouldn't answer the phone. I wasn't able to go to the mailbox without just being afraid. I didn't want to go to sleep, and I didn't want to wake up, because sleep was full of nightmares. Waking up instantly hit to where it was cold sweats, trying to figure out all this. Now, I'm going to tell you, I don't for a second believe that this situation is any worse than anybody else's. I know you and people around you are going through or have gone through some very serious times. What I want to talk about is the place that I took myself during this situation and what I learned from it. It's an example. Now, I've worried all my life. I've been through some serious life issues, such as divorce, such as 2 different job losses, very serious car accidents, kids who were in LifeStar-type helicopters from accidents. I mean, there's things that have happened that cause the worry to be there, because you just think, okay, there's other things that are going to happen. And through this situation that happened a couple of years ago in my business, I just kept thinking to myself, this situation is doing nothing but getting worse. Day by day, it's just getting worse. And I can't help but think, how am I going to handle this? I'm just falling apart at the seams. I became withdrawn from my family, and I quickly felt like a complete failure. My employees were relying on me, and I wasn't upholding my end of the deal. My family was relying on me, and I felt like I just couldn't support and I couldn't take care of any of it. It was a very difficult place to be in, but I will tell you that I put myself in that place. I lost 30 pounds over the course of a year dealing with this, dealing with the stress. And it's a terrible place to be, because when you have no confidence, people see it. And I quickly realized that if I was ever going to get business again, if I was going to attempt to keep the doors open, I had to somehow gain confidence. My wife and my family were wonderful during this process. They tried every which way to reach me and tell me that it was okay. My wife over and over said, give it to God. And sometimes those words work, and sometimes they just bounce off of you. I'm a complete believer. I have been for a long time. But I didn't believe what God told me. I believed in Him. I didn't believe what He said. The Bible says He will take care of us, stand with us, stand beside us. And I wasn't believing that. My church would have been wonderful, but I didn't tell anybody. I didn't even tell the pastor, who's one of my best friends. But strangely enough, I found help through my dog. Dogs are incredible creatures. They love unconditionally. They have patience. They have compassion. They are trustworthy. They are loyal. They love without even considering anything bad about you. Does that remind you of some guy that was hanging on a cross around 2,000 years ago? Absolutely. Dogs are not Christ, but they do their darndest to exemplify what He stands for. I believe wholeheartedly that God put dogs here to show a little glimpse of His glory. Now, He does that with a billion other things, but dogs, there's no accident that we get along with them like we do. They're incredible creatures, and they show love, and they simply do not worry. And there are things that I learned from her. I was putting myself through so much misery, and there was no reason for it other than the situation was difficult. Now, we go through difficult situations. The problem, like I said in the first segment, was we just can't see beyond this second to figure out whether things are going to be okay. Now, I don't believe for a second that God wants to see us drowned. I don't see anything about Him that believes that He is interested in us being broken. He's not interested in us being broken at all. God intends for us to be fulfilled. God intends for us to have strength and to learn. And we have to go through situations, through difficulties, through struggles in order to find out how strong we are, how strong God is, and that He intends for goodness in our lives. When you're at a sporting event, say a football game, and it's an absolute runaway, 67-3, how many people are left in the stands? When it's a tie game and triple overtime, the stands are absolutely full. People are on the edge of their seat. They want to see the challenge. They want to see the struggle and see who pulls it off at the very end. Why can't our life be like that? When you're going through a situation, it's very difficult to see the possibility that God has good in store through things. It's so hard to see that. And I don't believe for a second also that God causes these issues. There's evil in this world, and I do believe that that evil is intended for us to look away from God and to look at how miserable we are or how stressed we are or how worried we are, when we have to stop and say, God, I know you're there. He intends to hold our hands and give us strength. God doesn't necessarily always pull us out of the storm, but He does give us an umbrella. But the good thing about storms is that they do sooner or later end. God does allow struggles. He doesn't take them away when we think He should. We want it gone now. The microwave society that we live in, we want things to just go away. We do not have the patience to see that there may be a learning opportunity here. When I was going through this difficult time, I prayed over and over and over that God take it away. I didn't for a second say, God, how am I going to use this? How am I going to learn from this? I just said, God, I hate this. Please take it away. I can't deal with it. But actually I was. And God didn't take it away right away. When I asked Him to do that, it's like saying, God, put me on the bench. Take it away means I don't want to play anymore. I don't like this. But God said, no, I'm going to keep you in the game. I'm going to keep you on the front lines because I know that you will learn that you're strong enough. Now, some of us, we just don't rise to the occasion and we fold. But I didn't want to. I had no interest in folding. I just kept looking at the situation saying, I don't think I can handle this. God knew I could, and He allowed me to learn about myself. He allowed me to see His strength. He allowed me to see the teeny tiny blessings that are always all around us. I got to see those. I just didn't see them at first. In a minute, I'm going to try to explain to you a little about how my dog helped me through this situation and helped me find joy that God totally intends for our lives. This is Dealing with Life. I'm Tom Baker, author of One Dog's Faith, the book that kind of explains all this through my dog's eyes. We'll be back in just a minute.
I won't worry my life away.
Welcome back to Dealing with Life. I'm Tom Baker, author of One Dog's Faith, a book about life, trust, and worry through the eyes of a dog. If you're interested, that book is available through onedogsfaith.com and also Amazon, and also available locally at Long's Drug Store, at Young Williams, at Village Exchange, and also at Cedar Springs Christian Bookstore and Farragut Pharmacy. But if you are a dog lover or a worrier or a little bit of both or a lot of both, I believe that you'll find some insight in that. We've been talking about worry. We've been talking about struggle and change and the things that we worry so much about. Think about it for a second. In the Bible, from beginning to end, there is never any promise that we will have comfort. That's what we strive for most, and that's what we worry about losing. I think that's what we worry about most is our comfort. I've got a chair in my living room. It's a wonderful leather recliner. I call it the easy chair. And I strive to be in that. In the middle of the day when I'm in the heat of battle and work, I think about the easy chair. And I think about stopping for a second. When I get to that easy chair, things are done. Job A, which is my daytime job, is over. And my most important job of taking care of the family, of taking care of my wife and doing what I can to be a help, that's over with. By the time I get to the chair, I'm done. Once I get to the easy chair, what happens? Zilch, zero, nothing, comfort. And that's where we want to be in life, I do believe. We want to find the comfort and not have to do anything or have to struggle or have to worry. But I don't learn anything in that chair. I sit there. Life is about learning. And the only way we learn is through struggle and difficulties. In the easy chair, nothing happens, no learning happens. We are not promised comfort, and we shouldn't strive for it so much. One thing that helped me out of worrying so much is realizing that I need to learn, and I need struggle, and I need to have a challenge for me to grow. And I want to grow. For a while, I guess I didn't. But there was this animal in our house. Like I said before, my wife was instrumental and she was so helpful. And my family, my kids were so helpful. My church tried to be helpful, but I didn't tell them much. But I did find peace through the dog, through Mango. Mango somehow, and dogs just seem to realize when we are struggling. Dogs seem to understand when we are either in pain or when we're sick or when we're sad. they somehow know what to do, whether it's that little lick on the hand, or whether it's laying down next to you at the couch, or there's just that look of, I care, and I'll do anything to take your mind off of this. And Mango is one of those dogs that just is relentless in trying to please and trying to offer her love. Dogs don't have much to work with. They don't have hands and opposing thumbs. They can't speak English or any language for that matter other than dog. They have a tail that indicates every single emotion they have, and that's what we have to go on. But somehow, in spite of all that, they offer us so much. Some dogs don't. Some dogs are quite stupid. But most dogs really try hard to take what I believe is their God-given challenge to take care of their humans, to not only protect, not only look after, but to love and to show God's complete glory and unconditional love. When I was going through this ordeal, this very, very stressful situation, I began to watch the dog. After seeing her love and her attempting to offer peace and hope somehow through her eyes, I began to see how she lives. Dogs don't really worry. What do they think about? What do dogs worry about? Food, maybe. But they just think about today. They live their life for now. They don't worry about tomorrow or the car payment that's due in a week or this week's grocery bill or the light bill. I mean, they don't have to. But still, dogs think about today. And if we could do a little more of that instead of living our life in the next week or the next month, which we have no control over, and we have no idea what other circumstances will change in the midst of that, we just need to deal with today. When you deal with today, half of the worry goes away right then and there. Dogs also, whenever we allow Mango to ride in the car, it's the best thing ever. It's the greatest day of her life to be able to ride in the car. And what does she like to do when she rides in the car? Have the window down. What is she doing? I believe she's taking in God's blessings. She's just looking around going, oh, this world is awesome. It's beautiful. The smells are incredible. The things around are so incredible. And when we're dealing with a struggle or we're worrying so much about something, we forget about those blessings. We block them out completely. And they're there, but we just somehow ignore them. And those blessings are what God offers us to keep going. He makes this place beautiful. Yes, it rains. Yes, it storms. But for the most part, it's beautiful. Springtime is so amazing. And we just forget to see that. And what else do dogs do? What do they do best? They serve. Dogs are one of the few, if not the only creature that God made that loves others more than themselves. They truly do. Cats, not so much. Dogs serve. That's what they do. And if we can adopt that, if we can look just a little beyond ourselves and our problems, you don't have to go more than 2 people to figure out somebody's going through something more than you are. I learned that a lot by watching my dog. And when I started serving with my church and I started just having a servant attitude to help others, my problems started seeming so small. I totally believe that's one of the major reasons God has us here in the first place. We all have our own specific talents and strengths. We all have our own specific struggles and things we got to deal with. But our charge is to show people God. Show them. And how do you do that? You help them. You serve. You go in, you meet people with a servant attitude. You don't go to them and say, here are my problems. You say, how can I help you? And man, if you look at those three things, today, stick your head out the window and serve. Worry just seems to go to a manageable level. It doesn't go away because I don't believe that's possible. We are going to worry about things. We are going to see that there are potential problems out there. But if we just stop for a second and realize that God intends only the best for us, then worry does go to a manageable level. Remember, God can turn anything into a blessing. He can take the worst disaster. He can take the most incredibly bad situation that, like I said before, I don't believe He causes. But the situations happen, whether through somebody else's terrible choice or whether through evil forces that are there. Trust me, they are there. But God can take any situation and turn it into a blessing. He can take a divorce that I had, and I was able to help other people with their divorces. I mean, the people who are going through struggles currently, who is the first person they're going to listen to about their struggle? They're going to listen to someone who's been there. And if you can take your struggles, if I take my struggles, job loss, divorce, struggles with alcohol, struggles with accidents that I've had before, accidents that my kids have had, a miscarriage from years ago, and I can help someone else through a very similar situation, then it's a win. It's a blessing. And God does that if we just stop and quit thinking so much about the problem and start thinking about how it can be a blessing. This is Dealing with Life. In just a few minutes, we'll have some final thoughts on struggles, on worry, and on dealing with life.
And the story has only begun, and this is going to be the glorious unfolding. Just you wait and see, and you will be amazed. I know you hear me. I know you see me, Lord. So thy will be done. Thy will be done.
You're listening to Dealing with Life. I'm Tom Baker, author of One Dog's Faith, a book about life, about trust, about worry through the eyes of a dog. It's available through onedogsfaith.com, and it's also available through Amazon and many local stores around here. Now, we've been talking about worry, we've been talking about struggles, and my thought is, instead of concentrating so much about how bad things are, which I was so good at doing, and it still catches me here and there, we need to understand that we can embrace these struggles. Why? Because God uses struggle for us to grow, for us to learn, for us to find Him. I looked for Him in every possible way I had when I was going through such a difficult issue a few years ago. I prayed, why is this happening? And please take it away. But He was trying to show me many, many things. One of which is how strong I am. I didn't think I was. But He was trying to let me understand that I was stronger than I thought I was. And definitely, He is stronger than I think He is. By worrying, we make God so little. When we're faced with a situation and we look for help from God, He's only as strong in our mind as we let Him. And remember, He's the strongest force in the universe. He can do anything. But He loves us enough and trusts us enough to know that we can go through things and learn from them and see His power and understand that He is for us and not against us. So as difficult as it may be, we need to embrace our struggles, to enjoy the blessing that can happen from it. Sure, it doesn't happen right away. When something too difficult or a devastation happens, we've got to go through the pain, and we've got to go through the mourning or whatever needs to happen in our human emotions. But we also need to look for the blessing. It's there. It may take a little while for us to understand what it is. I totally believe that this book, One Dog's Faith, is a result of going through struggles and finding the blessing. My hope is that it will help someone. My hope is that if you're going through a worry or a struggle, and like dogs, by the way, then you can find hope in it. You can find God's peace because it's there. I totally believe that God wishes for us to have joy. Joy is not always easy to find, but when we understand God's love for us and we understand that He only wants the best for our lives, and that process may take a lifetime, and that He will not reveal Himself completely at once. He will spend our whole lifetime revealing Himself little by little. But the joy I'm talking about is the freedom from worry. I cannot describe to you the weight that was lifted off my shoulders when I stopped worrying so much about everything. And I would worry about everything. Most of the things are not within my control anyway, and most of the things are so far off in the future that anything could happen between now and then. But the joy that I have, you can have. It's just the freedom of understanding that God wants the best for you. And anything that happens in your life can be turned into a blessing. Take God's joy and embrace it. He wants that for you. He wants that for me. I totally believe that. But we've got to grab it. It doesn't just happen. Joy is a choice. I pray that you see the hope through Christ Jesus. He came here and He faced everything that we face. Desertion, people trying to kill Him, gossip, being homeless. Yeah, He worried. He sweated blood. But He stopped. And He said, "Your will, not mine." And that's our example. We can worry. It's okay. It's not a sin to worry. But it is when we let it get out of hand, when it consumes us, when we fail to realize how God can take our lives and turn it upside down. But that upside down is absolutely perfect, because we were probably upside down in the first place. Jesus said, "Your will, not mine." And when we stop and say, "I don't want this to happen and I don't see any possible good out of it, but I accept your will because I know it's better than mine." When you do that, freedom truly does happen. My business now is better than it's ever been. I look forward to getting up every day and going, and I couldn't say that before. I look forward to every single adventure of every possible day. But the way I look at it, Jesus didn't save my business. Jesus saved me. This is Dealing with Life. I'm so glad you are here with us. I hope you found a peace and joy through Christ Jesus, through the power of God that is truly there for the grabbing. The Spirit will lead you to a fulfilled life. I'm Tom Baker, author of One Dog's Faith. We have this show every single week at this time. I pray that you come back and join us again.
It's been